Is 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Sun Prairie Common Council for the evening of August 3rd, 2021. Clerk, would you take the roll?
Stacker.
Here.
Bowling. Here. Crombie.
Here.
Jacobs.
Here.
Yokish.
Here.
McElroy.
Here.
Polensky. Here. Stevens.
Here.
So we have a quorum. We have all 8 of our city council members here. Now, I noticed on the agenda, Elena and Aaron, it says right under that summary report. What does that mean, summary report?
That is the administrative recommendations report. So in order to make the agenda packet come together, we have to name it something on the agenda.
Okay.
So that is what that is.
Is that new or has that always been there?
That has not always been there. That's been since the administrative recommendations have been
Okay.
included in the packet.
All right,
Yeah.
very good, thank you. Would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we are going to take up the consent agenda, and there has been a request that we withdraw items E and F, D, E, and F from the consent agenda and take those up separately. So I would appreciate somebody making a motion to approve the rest of the items that are in the
Mr. Mayor,
consent.
I would also like to request item H removed.
I didn't hear which one it was, Teresa.
H.
H? Okay. All right.
And I'll make the motion.
All right. And is there a second?
Jacobs will
Stacker,
second. I don't, oh wait, are we motioning for the rest of the agenda? Okay.
The rest of the consent.
I'll second.
All right. So all in favor of approving the consent agenda with items D, under the heading D, items E, F, and H out, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And that passes. So now we're going to come back and take these 3 items, each one separately. So item D, other consent items, E, resolution approving a conditional use permit to allow the conversion of 2 first-floor commercial spaces to 4 live-work units at 641 West Main Street. So Mike Jacobs, you asked to have these out of here. So would you like us to get a motion to approve that and then go into discussion?
If that's what's best.
Yeah, procedurally, I think it
Yep.
is, unless you just had a question. So if we can get a motion to approve this item for the purposes of going into discussion on it.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second it.
Second. So now we're into discussion on that item. Mike, did you have a position you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, and I may be just looking for explanations. I'm not sure, and Sarah
Okay.
or Scott may address this. But so here's my concern / issue about this, which is I'm not sure. I should have thought about exactly how to approach this, but so I'm thinking back. You know what got me on the council to begin with was I was opposed to a T-wall project, but he sold it to us as well. In this, we're going to have this great community room, and we're going to have a library. And then it passed. And then a couple years later, he came back and said, no one's really using this library. Can we make this into apartments? Okay? So I don't know who runs the Catalyst. I don't know who built the Catalyst. I don't know if they have the same notion. But I feel like if we could say no to T-wall, we could say no here. I also have a sense that if we say, well, we're not allowed to say no, well then I guess T-wall's got an argument with us. So here's what my concern is about doing this, which is, I've probably have voted against apartments more than anybody else on this council. But the one place I have not voted against them for sure is on Main Street. Because as many of us, and this is for maybe the benefit of people who are at home don't know this, but we've been told about the barbell effect, where we have heavy development on the far east and heavier development on the far west, but nothing in the middle. And what we were told was that the way to resolve this was to put apartments in the middle and have them particularly connected to businesses. businesses that might serve the residents of those apartments. Now, I'm not talking specifically a coffee shop or a dry cleaner. I don't know. Those kind of service businesses, whatever. Okay. So this is what was agreed upon. And what I'm troubled by is now that we're walking away from this. So I wonder, well, if the argument is, well, this is just not viable, I'm hard-pressed to believe that, even though I am myself certainly a novice, I'm hard-pressed to believe that they would have agreed to this if they knew this was not viable. They are experts, and they're not going to waste their money, okay? So this is just, I don't want to say my suspicion, but this is what I want to make sure of, that this was not a bait and switch, where they said, okay, this is what we have to do to get this passed, is say we'll make it commercial, we'll let it sit for a couple years empty, and then say, oh, well, look, we can't rent it out, so be it. Now, I am going to invoke a name, and it's probably not fair that I do so because he's not here to comment on it, but I don't have any choice, and that's Neil Steck-Schulte. And that is when these weren't being rented out, I expressed concern to him. And his opinion, and I think it's unfair that he can't respond to this because he may have some clarifying remarks. But his opinion at the time was, he said, Mike, I don't think they're trying hard enough. I think this can be done. So, are they not experts and they built something that wasn't right? Or are they not experts at marketing? Whatever it is, I don't think we should change this plan. That's my position.
Mike, would you like to hear from Scott Kugler and Sarah Sauer?
Yeah, in fact, if they're going to alleviate my concerns, that would be wonderful. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping will happen.
The Plan Commission had some of those same concerns, so I think it would be good if we heard from them, and then Bob will come back to your comments. So, Scott or Sarah, whichever one of you, would you speak to what Mike was talking about? We had those comments in Plan Commission as well.
Sure, I'd be glad to start, and Sarah, feel free to add to what I have to say if you wish. So on that topic specifically, yeah, Neil and I have talked about this in the past, and unfortunately the developer's not here tonight. I think they were sent a link to the meeting, but maybe they thought it being on the consent, they weren't going to get any questions. So I just want to make it clear I'm not speaking for the developer, but I can kind of tell you about my conversations with them over the last couple of years. I did talk with the applicant here, I want to say maybe a year and a half after the building opened, and he raised concerns that things were going slow. We saw one proposal from them for a commercial user that was toying with the idea of occupying one of the spaces, but the problem is that user wanted a drive-through, and we had a hard time making that fit with this particular site plan. I think in hindsight, maybe Dan and his group would have kind of designed the site a little differently and maybe work that option in so they could have at least one space that could accommodate a drive-through. This happened to be a pharmacy that was interested in the site, so they weren't able to make that work. At the time he raised the question, so this was some time ago, about converting these to residential, and I kind of pushed back and I told him I think we need to make sure we give this time. We need to make sure that you're making efforts to see this through and make a serious effort, or I think you're going to get accused of exactly what Alder Jacobs is raising here, was this a bait and switch type of a situation. So Dan said that's fine, we'll try harder. I don't know that I saw that they had actually hired a broker. I think they tried to market these properties themselves. I do know that as a team, they went up and down Main Street, checking in with a lot of existing businesses there to see if there was any interest in moving over to this space. So they made efforts, maybe not in the traditional way. And I think it's always best to hire a broker to, who's better connected with what's going on and people searching for new businesses. But they did make some efforts here. A year ago, I would have probably still been, a year and a half ago, I probably still would have been pushing them harder to try to fill these spaces and take a little more time. With the COVID situation, I don't think we got hit nearly as hard as everyone was expecting, but these spaces are not in as high of a demand, in my opinion. Just kind of reading through the literature in the field, I know Madison is struggling to fill some of these mixed-use spaces as well. I think the good ones that are located at key intersections and maybe have incorporated a drive-through, like we saw with the McHenry situation, where they were able to get a tenant in there quickly because it provided that option. That's something that we should probably look at down the road, is trying to make sure that these spaces, whenever possible, incorporate that as an option, because I think that helps. It helps broaden the the parties that might be interested in the space. I think that's kind of a lesson learned. I would certainly love to see some spaces here. And Alder Jacobs, I don't know if the connection in the plan is necessarily residential connected with the commercial in the same building. I think that what the plan recommends is that we increase rooftops in the central Main Street corridor area in general, and that in turn will make that area a more attractive place to do business. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen within the same building. I think the idea of having a mixed use set up in mixed use buildings is to try to make, activate the streetscape, try to make that pedestrian environment along Main Street more inviting, more interesting, so that, frankly, people enjoy being there and want to spend more time there. And in so doing, we can, again, increase the viability of this as a potential commercial area. I think that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen with one or two buildings. We need to get a critical mass of people there. And hopefully when that happens, we'll be able to attract more businesses to the area. On this particular one, I don't know, if waiting another couple of years is going to make a difference or not. The spaces are what they are. We can't incorporate the drive-through. I don't know what, might be, other than just a lack of businesses out there right now to fill these spaces, that are interested in these types of spaces. I don't know what could be done to more encourage the use of these. On the plus side, they're at least thinking, in terms of activating that street front, they're at least thinking of live-work units instead of just residential units. That at least keeps the option open for, the hairdresser, the massage therapist, the insurance agent, to have a space there that could be, kind of turned into a storefront. There could be a sign, there could be some activity there. So it's not just converting them to residential spaces. But that's kind of the situation that we're at right now. I wish the applicant was here to address your questions more directly. I can't represent them. I can only tell you what my interactions with them have been over the last, I'd say, year and a half on this particular issue.
I think he actually is here. I thought I saw his name pop up. But if I can just address two things about what you said, Scott. So, yeah, I understand it was part of the overall plan and not any specific work, with business at the bottom. But I think number one is that's how this was pitched to us at the council. That's one of the reasons we said yes to this project. That's the point I'm trying to make. And second is, again, I don't want to question the motives, and I think I was trying to be clear, maybe I wasn't. I'm not questioning the motives of this developer. I don't know this developer. But what I'm saying is that if we allow this conversion, we're opening the door for all futures. And how would we be able to say no when we said yes to them? How would we say no to future people? I mean, I think you'd put me in a position on the council of continuing to saying no. Well, no, because I don't trust what you're going to do in the future. Or saying, okay, well, before we do this, let me see your leases. Let's get signed leases, and then we'll say yes. And that, I don't think that's good for economic development, is my point about that.
Yeah, I can't say I don't disagree. I would love to have these spaces filled with business and see bustling storefronts. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I think we all would. Yeah, we all would.
There are some people out in the audience, and I'm not sure if they're connected to this. So let me ask them that. If there are people in the audience that wish to address us on this, would you use the raised hand function so that we know you want to speak to us about this? Otherwise, I'm not.
Your Honor, this is Sarah Sauer. Dan Schmidt is the property owner. So I think you guys might be thinking Dan McCoy, who's here for another project.
Right.
But Dan Schmidt is the property owner, and then Yulian Kisyov, I'm not sure how I pronounce his name, is the architect. They were both sent invites, but I do not see them as attendees here.
Okay. So you don't see anybody out there, Sarah, from the applicant's side?
No, I do not.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So, Bob?
Well, I guess I wasn't surprised. I'm sure I don't have too much to add over what Scott said, certainly, but I did want to say that I wasn't at all surprised to see this type of change. I think, as Scott said, COVID changed everything. I think in the future we're going to see a lot less commercial developments proposed in the future, and so to see something like this where they're having difficulty renting out commercial space, I guess I didn't find that surprising at all, and support this change. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item?
Just to say that difficulty predated COVID. So we can't blame this on COVID. This was empty for a long time before COVID happened.
Terry?
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I don't like to see empty space, especially along Main Street. I don't want to see empty storefronts. So I will be voting to approve this. Thank you.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Having gone by this since it opened and continually looking to see what was going into the commercial space and being disappointed, I think by keeping this empty, this is sending a message to possible future developers that maybe this isn't the right place to have a commercial building on Main Street. And I think by filling it, I think we accomplished two goals. First of all, the main thing is it looks good, I think, and it does good for whoever owns the building. I am disappointed. I think when we had our discussion years ago about high-speed internet, one of the wishes that I had, if we put that in there, which we did, was that we could attract, let's say, like an engineering firm or some type of firm that would want that high-speed internet. Obviously, that hasn't materialized. So I think at this point, changing it to whatever they can put in there, I think bodes well for that development. So I would be supporting it.
Teresa?
Thank you. I hope that we've all learned some lessons too in the overall design of this. I don't believe it was ever truly designed for commercial space. When you look at it, it's hard as a user to know where to park. You feel like you're parking at an apartment complex, not at a hair salon, a restaurant. We didn't design for the drive-through, so we really never knew who our end tenants were that we were even trying to design for and have in these spaces, because we didn't think of the end user. I think we're sold the idea of being closer to the Main Street, creating the pedestrian feel, and we executed that portion very well. We just don't have a place for a car-heavy, car-centric community yet of where can we park and move around from there. So I do hope in the future, as we continue to see Main Street being redeveloped, that we're really thinking of that end tenant, the end user, and how they're going to use that space. So I am going to vote in favor of this because I, like others, don't want to see any more dark storefronts, especially along our Main Street.
All right. Anybody else? Or are we ready to vote? Tina?
So the only thing what's on my mind is the cost to the small business owner, to the rental space. Like I haven't heard that information in regards to how much those particular spaces are charging, and are we charging out small businesses to be able to to occupy that space? If it's the same dynamics that we're seeing with housing and pricing folks out and thinking about, that's something that I'd like more information on, at least for future projects, because I don't want to shut folks out.
Okay. Discussion. Let's get the vote on it.
Stacker,
Aye.
Bowling,
Aye.
Crombie,
Aye.
Jacobs,
No?
Yokish,
Aye.
McElroy,
Aye.
Polensky,
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
And that passes 7-1.
All right. So now we're going to move down to DF, resolution approving a conditional use permit to allow a group daycare center on property located at 1500 West Main. Let's do the same thing. Let's get a motion on that to approve, and then we'll get into discussion. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
McElroy seconds.
Second, so now we're into discussion. Mike, you requested this one as well.
Yeah, so, and there may be some updated information that someone may have that may dissuade me from this, but I think like everyone here would agree, Head Start's an awesome program. We're glad to have as many Head Start programs as we can in the city. But this was brought to me by the owner of Teddy's Place, Charlotte, and maybe someone has spoken to her since. But she expressed opposition to this for, I thought, was a very logical reason. And I should also point out, she also favors having Head Start. She just doesn't want it to share her parking lot. She says she is a for-profit business, and this would essentially be a competitor that's government subsidized. And I also want to point out that she is also has clients that are government subsidized. Okay, so she serves to some degree a same function, and in some level a similar clientele, but not completely. So that's my opposition here is only the location. That's my only issue, and I think that's, Charlotte then also pointed out that there would be congestion in the parking lot because both daycares would oftentimes be getting out at the same time, and that's a difficulty. I should also point out that some neighbors behind expressed some concern as well, but my main objection here is simply the location based on having a public enterprise compete with a private enterprise that's been in Sun Prairie for a long time.
I think, Mike, when we had this at Plan Commission, the traffic congestion was brought up, and I see Sarah's name, and I think it was Sarah that did the staff report on this. Is that correct, Sarah? And can you comment on the congestion?
Thanks, Your Honor. Yes, I did the staff report on it, and I was trying to make sure I had the correct information pulled up in front of me. So the applicant, there were several questions on this use prior to going to Plan Commission. I think mostly specific to the traffic with the parents and the drop off, and then the bus service that was proposed here on this site. So the applicant did provide a bus schedule, if you will, for pickup and drop off. There's one bus that they're proposing to come on the site to do a pickup and drop off once in the morning, a pickup and drop off around the lunch hour, and then a pickup and drop off in the early afternoon. And then the bus would just remain parked there on the site. They did provide some turning movements for that bus. So the bus would, as was shown on their site plan, would come up and drop off children right in front of their door, and then loop around entirely within this subject site. It wouldn't cross over property lines. It wouldn't interfere with any of the existing parking stalls except for one on this site, and then drive back out to Main Street. So there was a revised letter of intent in the packet that explained all of this, and the applicant, I see, is here tonight, so she can possibly answer some more questions on that bus service.
So if the applicant wishes to speak to us, is that Luanne? I'm trying to remember Luanne. Do you wish to address? Oh, you do have your hand up now. Okay. So go ahead, Luanne. Introduce
Thank you.
yourself.
Luanne Williams, Child and Family Programming Director for Rach, Dane. So we are located in two places in Sun Prairie. We also have been in Sun Prairie for many, many years and want to continue. I have not talked with Margot recently. She's been on vacation, but I did talk with the site director at Teddy's Place, Sarah, and we discussed mainly just the bus congestion issue, and we are both willing to work with each other on resolutions, options. I will be reaching out to the school district when they're back here in the next couple weeks to see if there's options for some of our kiddos. We are a 4K partner as well with the district. So if there's any way we can partner with the district to alleviate some of the bus routes and bus times, we are definitely willing and want to discuss more about that, because too we understand the smallness in that area, and want to be safe. We want the kids to be safe. We want parents to be safe when they're dropping off. Also to attest to any type of competition, our program is federally funded. We serve below poverty level families in your area and have been, and we continue to do so. We do serve some working families, but they also fall below federal poverty guidelines. So I wouldn't say competition. I would hope we're a partner with Teddy's Place in offering all families in the community, the options for childcare. We know there's not a lot of high quality childcare, and we also share kids with Teddy's Place. There's kids that come to us and then go to her location for extended care. And we certainly want to continue that partnership. That's never been a question. So yeah, I certainly would love to sit down and talk with her more and, look at ways to talk through, anything that, might be of concern. This is, a 5-year commitment. Not to say, we could be longer, but, it's what we have. Also in the city of Sun Prairie, we're finding it very difficult, as large or as small as we are, to find quality space that is very, conducive to our needs and the kids' needs as well. So it's been a long time, over the last 2.5 years, trying to find space. There's limited options. Also, the cost of space is challenging.
I think
we are federally funded, but we're not. We're flat funded.
Yep.
We don't make money, and we don't want to lose money.
We've got it, Luanne. Thank you for your
Sorry,
comments.
thank you.
One more comment?
Yep, go ahead.
So again, Luanne, I am wholeheartedly in support of the program. It's just the concern of that business owner regarding duplicative services. And I also want to point out to you, there is some open commercial space at 641 West Main Street.
It's the one we were talking about before, Luanne. You're really not interested in that.
I don't appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Could I ask Luanne a
Go
question?
ahead.
I was just curious. You said you're federally funded, but are you a private, not-for-profit organization, or what is Rach, Dane?
Correct. Yes, we are a nonprofit agency that serves Head Start and early Head Start services in various communities of high need. So we don't make any money, or what money we get goes right back to families and children and staff.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Is there additional discussion, Maureen?
Thank you, Your Honor. There is a need for this type of daycare. I know that, Scott, you said that you had talked to Charlotte as well, because I know Charlotte reached out to staff. When Charlotte, she's the director of Teddy's Place, and when she reached out to staff, were you able to answer the questions, the concerns that she had?
So I'm going to defer to Sarah here because the reach out was by email, which I passed along to Sarah as the project manager, and I think Sarah may have had the correspondence with her.
Correct. Yeah, I did speak with Charlotte on the phone. I would say her comments and concerns were very consistent with what you all are speaking about. Parking, the bus, and competition are the three things that we really discussed.
Okay. I think of this as more being a partnership than a competition. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, my kids went to Teddy's Place for 7 years. And I was county funded when my kids first started going to Teddy's Place. My kids would not have would not have qualified for Reach Dane. They would not have qualified for Head Start. And I feel that, think of it as a parent, that has had their kids in Reach Dane, Head Start, and they've had their kids there for 3 years, and then they got a promotion at work, and they weren't able to afford to have their kids at Rach, Dane, then that's a great opportunity. It's right in the area, you know, their kids may go to West Side, and then they can go to Teddy's place then. So I don't think, if anything, I would think it would be a partnership more than competition. Because of the income, I mean, and there's a need in this community for this. And I know that you've been trying to find a place for almost a year. And it's been very hard in this community to find a place, especially with, you know, a yard. I don't know, most of you may not know this, but Teddy's place, where they want to move into, was the old Teddy's place. But I just think that there's a need, and I'm going to support this.
Tina?
I do want to take a moment for us to reflect in regards to there is a daycare scarcity, and we just had a conversation about how we can't fill space. And these two topics, from the former topic to this one, is such a juxtaposition that it just blows my mind. Like, how are we allocating and thinking about space and then also affordability and what our community needs? Daycare is a precious commodity, and parents are having a hard time getting back into the workplace because of the scarcity of it. So I do support this, but I also want us to really think hard about when we're talking about location and space, how are we talking about it, and specifically for when we're talking about developers and cost. I mean, we shouldn't be having these barriers. So just gonna put my 2 cents in there.
For what it's worth, Aaron and I have talked about the community needs assessment that he showed you last time, that maybe a component of that should be evaluating the situation with daycare in Sun Prairie and determining if there's a role for the city in daycare. We talk about transportation because that's an obstacle. Daycare, I think, fits right alongside of it for people that need to work. So I'm out of order on that. I'm taking away from the item before us, but it's timely, and Aaron and I have been talking about that, so hopefully we'll hear more about it in the future. So is there additional discussion on this item? I see none. Let's do the roll.
Stacker,
Aye.
Bowling,
Aye.
Crombie,
Aye.
Jacobs,
Aye.
Yokish,
Aye.
McElroy,
Aye.
Polensky,
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
And that passes 8-0.
Okay. And now we're going to move on to item DH, resolution approving a precise implementation plan to allow a 3-story indoor self-storage facility located at the northeast corner of West Main and North Wildwood Street. Let's do the same thing. Let's get a motion to approve, and then that'll get us into discussion on this.
Walensky will move to approve.
Jacobs seconds.
All right, we've got a motion and a second, so we're into discussion. Teresa, you asked for this one?
I did, Mr. Mayor. Last time this came before us, I had voted no because while it is a well-designed building, I still adamantly believe that it is not in the right location, and I have grave concerns as West Main Street continues to grow that it is going to be out of place in this area. In addition, I received at least 3 emails from the neighborhood residents also being adamantly opposed to this. They're still very frustrated and upset from Colorado Commons, and this has just really added to their anger level. This is not in my district, but I do respect what they are saying, and I just wanted to register that I am not in favor of this.
Okay. Is there additional discussion on this item, Mike?
Yeah, to my memory, I think I also oppose this, but at this point, I think we have to be opposed to the precise implementation plan, not the idea of it, right?
Perhaps,
Scott,
but
what
I still don't really favor an implementation plan.
I was with you, but I'm not sure that we can do this. Scott?
Yeah, let's hear what
Sure,
Scott.
that was a question for me. I mean, typically the entitlement or the land use decision is made at the GDP stage. That was what was approved at your last meeting. And then the PIP is really an evaluation of, does the proposal meet the standards or the expectations set with the general development plan. Our evaluation is yes. I mean, there are a few areas where some modifications are being requested because of the nature of the use. The amount of glazing on the first floor level of the building is one example. But we feel like the applicant has you kind of stepped up and approved and addressed most of the issues that we had raised, at least at the staff level. The Plan Commission was comfortable and sent this on unanimously, I believe, which is why it was on the consent agenda. But I certainly understand that that if there still are some concerns about the use, perfectly understandable. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the design. I noticed Dan McCoy was on earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here, but I just wanted to let you know that at least earlier the applicant was here and available to answer questions. I see one phone number out on the attendees list, and not sure if that's Dan or not.
We don't see Dan any longer. Dan McCoy, are you out there? Okay,
He
maybe-
raised his hand for the Main Street project.
He did.
He did.
Dan McCoy?
He did, yes.
Oh, when
Maybe it was
I
by
asked-
mistake, but he did.
Oh, I did not see that. Well, we're not hearing from him now. Is there?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm
Okay,
here.
go
If
ahead.
I can answer it, I'm happy to.
So this is Dan
What
McCoy.
was the specific question?
There wasn't one yet. I was just pointing out that you were here in case there are any.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Scott.
So-
Yep. Sorry, I dropped off. I'm not real good with the Zoom features. I apologize.
All right. So we'll see, Dan, if there are questions to address to you.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So do we have additional discussion on this item? I'm not seeing any, so let's get the vote on this. Oh, okay. Tina?
It's pretty minor. I was just looking at the layout, the design, and one of the things that I was just noting was the accessibility for the abilities parking, that it's further away from the door than I would have anticipated. So I just wanted to know the logic behind why it's located there. That was the only thing that when I was looking at actually at the blueprint that caught my eye.
Oh,
All right.
It's a good question. The first time a potential customer comes, they do have to park a little farther away, as you mentioned, but the next 90% of the time that they come to use the building and use their storage unit, they then are able to drive closer to the building into the drive-through. That's the reason why it's laid out in that manner.
Okay, thank you.
I guess if I could help there, just to point out that if you look at those plans, the office, where the employee will be sitting, that basically sells and markets the space, is actually up at that northeast corner of the building, which is right across from the handicap space. So it's actually the most convenient space for someone coming in to inquire about storage. And then Dan's right after that, then they're parking inside the drive-through space to load and unload or access their unit.
Okay. Additional discussion? I don't see any. Let's get the roll.
Stacker,
Aye.
Bowling,
Aye.
Bromby,
Aye.
Jacobs,
Aye.
Yokish,
Aye.
McElroy,
Aye.
Polensky,
Aye.
Stevens.
No.
And that passes 7-1.
So Dan, it passes 7-1, so we're done with you. You can go about your night.
Great. Well,
So.
I appreciate your help. Thank you all.
All right. So we are moving on to citizen appearances and public comments. We've had no Survey Monkey comments. Is there anybody in the audience now? Do you see? Nobody. So there's nobody out there waiting to speak to us. And we have, I have nothing under business of the mayor. We have no committee reports. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. We're down to referrals to the committee of the whole. Are there any referrals? I haven't heard. Mike.
I have a referral, and it's based on our consent agenda tonight. So, and I regret not pulling out H. It's difficult to decide what to put on the consent agenda, I think, but about H, so there was some controversy about H when it was in the general concept plan. And sometimes that just comes down to negotiating what's actually going to happen in that spot. So because of that, I think that shouldn't have been on the consent agenda, because if there were still people who might have, had some leverage to get some things changed, just putting it on the consent agenda means that once we're done with the general development, then just forget it. You're out of luck, and that's the way it's going to be. So I think it was a mistake to put that, and as you obviously know, I thought it was a mistake to put the other two items on the consent agenda as well. So I'd like us to scrutinize those a little bit more, especially something like H, which had a split vote when it was at the committee of the whole. Something like that shouldn't go on the consent agenda, is my view. I just want to make that. I'm not sure if that refers to you, Aaron, or department heads, but I partly wanted to say it to you, but I also want the vast listening audience we have to know that we're just not glossing over things. Yeah.
It isn't actually a referral that needs a committee action. It's just your comments to
I just wanted a chance to talk.
Yeah.
I knew the meeting was coming to a close.
Yeah.
Ahead of time.
You know, some of these are on there because they come out of the Plan Commission without opposition. And so then they're on there. And we're always willing to take them off. But your point about the community isn't aware that they're out there because they're on the consent is well taken. Anybody else for referrals to the Committee of the Whole? Steve?
Going back to, the situation in the world today, and I know Aaron posted this on CDC recommendations and such as far as the mask. I guess the referral to bring the public back in has the flip side, and also referral if this variant gets worse. I would like to bring, I guess, a referral forward to know that maybe we go from in-person back to virtual. What does that look like in this body's mind? I mean, if it starts, if we become a New Orleans or something like that, how comfortable are we coming back and meeting in person? I mean, yeah, I brought my mask tonight and we'll wear it, in and out, but, will the mask be enough? So I think maybe a referral to ask the question, do we go back to virtual for a while?
Do you think it's a discussion item for Committee of the Whole? Should be on the Committee of the Whole agenda, not a referral, maybe?
It certainly could be. I mean, the council could talk that over as to whether there's, I guess, your current comfort level of it, what would need to change, or what changes would be experienced, where you'd go back the other way. I guess, I'm not sure the parameters of that discussion. I think that's what the mayor's alluding to as well, is how do we come to that decision? I'm not sure how the council does that other than either waiting for public health orders, or whether that is something that you make the decision based on feel amongst yourselves. I'm not sure how you want to get at that discussion necessarily, but you certainly can put anything on the Committee of the Whole agenda that you'd like.
That's exactly what I was asking. It's like, it's not a road that we walk down often, and hopefully not again, but, when we do, what's everybody's comfort level? I mean, I could call everybody and say, hey, but I don't want to break quorum. I think that should be a discussion together, so.
Now that we're a hybrid, everybody makes the choice for themselves. Would that be fair to say? So
Yes.
if you don't feel comfortable with it, you could be watching this remotely. So we don't necessarily need a policy maybe, but certainly warrants discussion. Mike?
I'm sorry to add to this, but so I very much prefer to be in person. I think I've made that clear all along. However, an event happened tonight that made me rethink that, which is we had a constituent who was unable to be here while we're all here, and I think it raised the question of transparency. I think more than once he said, you're just trying to get me to be quiet. Well, if he was actually here, he could see that was not anyone's demeanor here, but instead he's leaving suspicious of city government because we are all collecting here and not allowing people to collect with us. So I think we do need to rethink that. It's much against what I want, but I do think we need to rethink it for that reason.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, then a motion. Oh, announcement, Steve. Did you do them all?
I think I did them all in the council president report.
All right. You've got your own forum to do those now.
Yeah.
All right. So a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you for your time.
Boy, that short meeting went a little long.
Yeah.